Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to another updated video on the Paraclete. This is an update of the video. The Paraclete would expose Christians as being disbelievers in Jesus. It's done by me, Proving Islam, in association with a Muslim organization, NYK, and the document that they will release, Easy Paraclete, inshallah, is where the content for this video is taken from. We're focusing today on John 16, 8-9. Jesus says about the Paraclete, and when he comes, he will convict the world concerning sin and righteousness and judgment, concerning sin because they don't believe in me. Now the word here that's been translated as convict in the Greek is
Lexi.
And it has the literal meaning of convicting, proving, reproving. It has this connotation of refuting with sound/convincing evidence. And here in context, it has this implication of mercilessly exposing the guilt of the world or bringing to light the guilt with harshness. Mercilessly here does not mean the Paraclete will not have mercy, but just that when he exposes the world of disbelief, as we'll see, he's going to do it with a harsh nature when he exposes them of disbelief in Jesus, as we will see, inshallah. So here is a commentary which mentions this, describing the word. The commentator writes that it means to refute or confute, to reprove or rebuke, involving shame to one who is guilty as his error is exposed or brought to light. So the idea is to demonstrate, pronounce, or declare someone to be guilty. Especially note here what's mentioned about exposing, bringing to light their guilt. So something was hidden, their guilt was hidden, and then the Paraclete came and he exposed it. He brought it to light for the public, for everyone to see. Right? Raymond Brown, he explains the word and he says, rather, it is a question of bringing the merciless light of truth to bear on guilt. The one certainty is that the party who is the object of the word,
Lexi.
that party is in fact guilty. He also writes in the same book, it's just a different layout. The verb means both to bring to light or expose, or to bring to light, expose, and to convict someone of something. So the verb means to bring to light, to expose, and to convict someone of something. Now look how Raymond Brown mentions it's a matter of bringing the merciless light of truth to bear on guilt. So there's this light. Another commentary mentions that after the Paraclete, convicts the world, it will be so clear, the evidence will be so clear that anyone who rejects it, they reject with their eyes open and at their own peril. As this commentary mentions, in the verses, the Paraclete is exposing the world of sin. He's exposing the world of sin because they don't believe in me. And what this actually means is, the Greek here, it can be, there are a couple ways you can interpret it, but one way that many commentaries interpreted it is that the Paraclete exposes them of the sin, specifically the sin of unbelief. So let's read this commentary. The helper, meaning the Paraclete, will accuse the world of unbelief. So the sin that they're being accused of, that they're being exposed of, is unbelief. As we see here, let me explain what this is doing here. So remember in John 16, he says, he convicts the world concerning sin because they don't believe in me. So this commentary is saying that the sin that they're being exposed of is disbelief. And disbelief in who? Of course, Jesus. So that's important to note. Another commentary here, explaining the word, they say the people who translate it as reprove, they mention that this rendering is not strong enough. The word is a legal term that means to pronounce a judicial verdict by which the guilt of the culprit at the bar of justice is defined and fixed. The Spirit does not merely accuse men of sin, he brings to them an inescapable sense of guilt so that they realize their shame and helplessness before God. This conviction applies to three particular areas: sin, righteousness, and judgment. The Spirit is the prosecuting attorney who presents God's case against humanity. He creates an inescapable awareness of sin so that it cannot be dismissed with an excuse or evaded by taking refuge in the fact that everyone is doing it. Then they write below, a court can convict a man of murder, but only the Spirit can convict him of unbelief. By Spirit, they mean the Paraclete. It's also interesting that Clark's commentary explains the word, and it says that he will demonstrate these matters so clearly as to leave no doubt on the minds of those who are simple of heart, and so fully as to confound and shut the mouths of those who are gainsayers. Confound is interesting because it means like to confuse. So there's a party here that's being accused of the sin of unbelief in Jesus, and according to Clark, they're going to be confused. Well, why would Jews be confused if someone accused them of disbelieving in Jesus? Well, they openly disbelieve in Jesus, and they hear that all the time. All the time people tell them, you disbelieve in Jesus. Christians were telling them. Why would they be confused? Doesn't seem to match Jews as well. Now, the conviction includes an exposure of unbelief and God's negative judgment against it. We're going to repeat this exposure of unbelief point because it's very important, and we want to show multiple commentaries explaining it like this. In this usage, the verb carries the connotation of condemning what is exposed. This is not a dispassionate expose of unbelief, but rather a passionate demonstration of the guilt of sin in the sinful world, together with God's negative judgment against it. So what is the Paraclete doing? He's exposing them of unbelief in Jesus specifically. Rudolf Bultmann's commentary says the function of the Paraclete is the word we've mentioned now many times, this one.
Lexi.
And he says, he continues, the Paraclete will uncover the world's guilt. Uncover the world's guilt. The image that comes before the eyes is that of a lawsuit of cosmic dimensions taking place before the court of God. The world is accused and the Paraclete is the prosecutor. This commentary says, explaining the word, that the focus in classical Greek is on putting to shame, treating with contempt, cross-examining, accusing, bringing to the test, proving, refuting. But it doesn't necessarily imply that the people who are accused will reform. As this commentary says, the word did not necessarily imply the conversion or reform of the guilty party. This means it is far more likely that conviction in something of a legal sense is intended here, as in a trial. The only certainty is that the accused party is indeed proven guilty, not that they will acknowledge their guilt. Therefore, the word here conveys the idea that the Paraclete will be pronouncing or declaring someone or a party to be guilty. Not someone, but a party to be guilty, and harshly exposing or sternly bringing to light their guilt. What is that guilt? That is the sin of disbelief in Jesus. So, focusing on 8 to 9, ignore 10, we did 10 before in a different video. We can paraphrase based on the commentaries the verses as follows. And when he comes, he will sternly convict the world with strong evidence, declaring and uncovering their guilt concerning sin, righteousness, and judgment. Concerning sin, because they don't believe in me. Now this phrase, because they don't believe in me, again, the Greek can be interpreted as specifying not believing in Jesus to be the sin that they're being convicted of. Okay, so it can be translated here as concerning sin because they don't believe in me, concerning sin that they don't believe in me, or concerning sin in that they don't believe in me. So the interpretation that the sin is disbelief in Jesus seems to make a lot of sense because it flows well. As we see here, if you interpret this as when he comes, he will convict the world concerning sin, righteousness, and judgment, concerning sin because they don't believe in me, like the reason they sin is because they don't believe in Jesus or whatnot. The phrasing is a bit awkward, but if you just interpret it as concerning sin in that they don't believe in me, so the sin is disbelief in Jesus, that flows a lot better. It's more smooth. So the Paraclete will uncover, expose, bring to light the accused party's disbelief in Jesus. And according to Clark, this will confuse them, confound them. Now, the thing is that Jews and pagans, they openly disbelieved in Jesus. You can't prove or expose someone of disbelieving in Jesus while they already admit disbelief, right? This better fits a party who claim to believe in Jesus, but the Paraclete will show/expose them to be disbelievers. Right, again, the Paraclete is supposed to expose and prove that the party is actually disbeliever in Jesus. So he's supposed to uncover, bring to light, expose. So what do these words imply? It implies that the sin of disbelief in Jesus was hidden. There was a group of party who had this sin and it was hidden. And then the Paraclete comes and he exposes it. He brings it to light. So now everyone knows the sin. It's out in the public. Before it was hidden, now it's out. So you can't really expose people who already openly disbelieve in Jesus. You can't expose them of disbelieving in Jesus. You can't go to a Jew and say, aha, I expose you. Actually, you disbelieve in Jesus. You don't actually believe in him. We'll say, well, I never believed in him to begin with. So what are you doing? You can't expose me. You can't uncover that I'm a disbeliever. I'm openly disbelieving. But you can go to a Christian who claims to believe in Jesus and say, and convict them and say that actually you don't believe in him. You're uncovering their sin, right? So this better fits Christians who openly claim to believe in Jesus, and then the Paraclete comes and he brings to light that actually they don't believe in him. Their disbelief is a hidden sin that is then exposed. And also, remember, he's supposed to prove that they're disbelievers in Jesus. Do you have to prove that Jews and pagans disbelieve in Jesus? Why do you have to prove it? They openly say it. But Christians, now they claim to believe in Jesus, but it makes sense that you would prove that actually they don't believe in him and expose them as being disbelievers. So by that criteria, we can determine that the Paraclete is supposed to expose and prove that Christians, those who claim to believe in Jesus, actually don't. And remember, according to Clark, it's supposed to confuse them. Now, Christians who claim to believe in Jesus, it would confuse them when they would be convicted of disbelief, but not so much Jews who hear it all the time, you disbelieve in Jesus, right? Now, how can we say that John 16, 8-9 is talking about exposing the Christians specifically regarding the sin of disbelief in Jesus? How can we say that it's talking specifically about Christians when Jesus says that the Paraclete is going to expose the world? So isn't the world general? How can we say it's Christians who are a specific party of people? Well, the answer is if you go to the previous chapter, John 15, the same word, the world, is used, and it's talking about a specific group of people, a specific party of people. So by that, we know that the term here, the world in John 16, doesn't have to be the world generally, but it can be restricted to a specific group of people. Now, remember the Paraclete convicts the world, so that's exposing a party or a group of people. In John 15, it's used for a group of people, and it's a conviction collectively, like the world collectively, or this group collectively is exposed. Not like every single person individually is being exposed, which is like how Christians think about it with the Holy Spirit, like, oh, this individual, an individual was convicted by the Holy Spirit and blah, blah, blah. No, rather the world generally, collectively is being exposed. That party is collectively being accused. And that much better matches the revelation of the Quran. The revelation of the Quran better matches this, as the personal conviction of each individual it's not revelation, right? Whereas the Paraclete's revelation should have an objective frame of reference. The Christians disbelieved in what Jesus affirmed about himself. That is why they don't believe in Jesus, because they don't believe in what Jesus says about himself. The Holy Spirit's conviction would not be accepted in court, as it is not tangible or objective. The conviction of the Quran is objectively referenceable and not subject to whims/desires. That's important because in John 15 and 16 we have trial terminology, so it would make sense that the evidence that the Paraclete is presenting would actually hold up in court. Trial terminology, witness, convict, judgment in John 15, 16. So again, we're going to paraphrase 8-9 again, and then we'll look at how this matches the Prophet ﷺ being the Paraclete. And when he comes, he will sternly convict the world with strong evidence, declaring and uncovering their guilt concerning sin, righteousness, and judgment concerning sin, in that they don't believe in me. The Quran, Allah says, and remember this is revelation being revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, and then the Prophet Muhammad would recite this. لقد كفر الذين قالوا إن الله هو المسيح ابن مريم هو المسيح ابن مريم وقال المسيح يا بني إسرائيل اعبدوا الله ربي وربكم إنه من يشرك بالله فقد حرم الله عليه الجنة ومأواه النار وما للظالمين من أنصار وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ. They've certainly disbelieved who say Allah is the Messiah, the son of Mary, while the Messiah has said, O children of Israel, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. Indeed, he who associates others with Allah, Allah has forbidden him paradise, and his refuge is the fire, and there are not for the wrongdoers any helpers. لقد كفر الذين قالوا إن الله هو المسيح ابن مريم قل فمن يملك من الله شيئا إن أراد أن يهلك المسيح ابن مريم وأمه ومن في الأرض جميعا ولله ملك السماوات والأرض وما بينهما يخلق ما يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير. They've certainly disbelieved who say that Allah is the Messiah, the son of Mary. Say then, who could prevent Allah at all if he had intended to destroy the Messiah, the son of Mary, and his mother, and everyone on earth altogether? And to Allah belongs the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, and whatever is between them. He creates what he wills, and Allah is over all things powerful. So, the statement, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ, they've certainly disbelieved who say this is like a statement of conviction. Remember, the Paraclete convicts. And then the Messiah said, O children of Israel, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. This is the evidence of the conviction from Jesus. Remember, the Paraclete proves that they are actually disbelievers. By the way, this is from a previous ayah. Like, these are not the same section in the surah. One is later, this one is later, and this one is before in the surah. Now, note that the accusation in the Quran is unapologetic and it condemns them to hell. And that matches the stern, harsh tone prophesized in John 16. If you remember, Raymond Brown said it's a merciless light of truth. We saw that a couple people mentioned how there's this element of shaming, right? That matches the harsh, fiery nature in the Quran. We also see that the function of bringing to light or exposing their guilt matches the Arabic word kafir, which literally means to hide and conceal the truth. When used in the Quran for non-Muslims, it also has an element of shaming the party labeled as so. And when he comes, he will convict the world. That matches لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا, certainly disbelief of those who say, conviction. Concerning sin, in that they don't believe in me, that matches. And the Messiah said, O children of Israel, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. They don't believe in that. Now, the fiery tone that's prophesied also matches other places in the Quran where Christians are convicted. For example, وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ الرَّحْمَنُ وَلَدًا لَقَدْ جِئْتُمْ شَيْئًا إِدًّا تَكَادُ السَّمَاوَاتُ يَتَفَطَّرْنَ مِنْهُ وَتَنشَقُّ الْأَرْضُ وَتَخِرُّ الْجِبَالُ هَدًّا. And they say the most merciful has taken a son. You have come with a monstrous thing. The heavens almost rupture therefrom, and the earth splits open, and the mountains collapse in devastation. أَنْدَعُوا لِلرَّحْمَنِ وَلَدًا, that they attribute to the most merciful a son. So just to summarize, the Paraclete is to declare a party as guilty of disbelief in Jesus. Check. The Prophet Muhammad did that. With the revelation of the Quran, there's supposed to be the stern, harsh, fiery nature of convicting them of disbelief in Jesus. Check. There's supposed to be strong evidence to prove them wrong. Check. And there's supposed to be this bringing to light, exposing, uncovering their disbelief in Jesus. Check. Right? You don't go to Jews and pagans and expose them. You're actually disbelievers in Jesus. No, you expose Christians of that because they claim to believe in Jesus. So that's it. That's the video. Subscribe to the channel. Check out other videos. Assalamu alaikum.